After 60, your body doesn't need more miles on tired knees. It needs precision. It needs intelligent movement that rewires balance, activates dormant muscle chains, and protects the joints you've already worn down with decades of pounding pavement. Walking has been sold to you as the gold standard for aging well, but here's what they don't tell you. Repetitive forward motion without variation actually accelerates the very weaknesses that lead to falls, hip fractures, and loss of independence. The science is clear. Over 60, unvaried walking can stiffen your ankles, weaken lateral stability, and leave your core disengaged while your heart rate barely climbs. You're moving, sure, but you're not training the systems that keep you upright when you slip on ice or reach for something on a high shelf. Now here's the kicker. There's a 3-minute Japanese movement practice that does in minutes what hours of walking cannot. It doesn't require equipment, a gym membership, or even leaving your living room. It's been used for generations in Japan, where people over 60 maintain balance, strength, and independence at rates that make Western clinicians jealous. We're going to walk through 7 of these movements today, building from the simplest to the most powerful. Number 7 is gentle enough to do while your coffee brews. Number 2 will surprise you because it targets a muscle group most people ignore until it's too late. And number 1 is the 30-second practice that research from longevity centers has linked to dramatically lower fall risk and better cognitive function in older adults. It sounds too simple to work, but the mechanism is profound. Before we go further, drop a comment right now with your age and where you're watching from. I want to know who's ready to try something smarter than another lap around the block. Let's start with number 7. It's called the crane stance, or tsuru no kami in Japanese. You stand on one leg for 20 seconds, then switch. That's it. But here's why it matters. After 60, proprioception, your body's ability to sense where it is in space, declines fast. Your inner ear and the tiny sensors in your feet and ankles start misfiring. You don't notice it until you trip over a rug or lose your balance stepping off a curb. Research from major balance and gait labs suggests that single-leg standing time is one of the strongest predictors of fall risk in older adults. If you can't hold a stable crane stance for at least 10 seconds per side, your risk of a serious fall within the next year climbs significantly. Meet Linda, 72, a retired schoolteacher from Ohio. She walked 3 miles every morning for years. Strong cardiovascular system, decent endurance. But one morning she stepped off a curb wrong and fell, fracturing her wrist. In the emergency room, the doctor asked her to stand on one leg. She couldn't do it for more than 3 seconds. I had her start practicing crane stance every morning while her coffee brewed. 20 seconds per leg, hands lightly resting on the counter if needed. After 2 weeks, she was stable without support. After a month, she could do it with her eyes closed. Her confidence came back, and so did her willingness to walk on uneven ground. Here's your protocol. Stand next to a sturdy counter or chair. Lift your right foot a few inches off the floor, knee bent. Keep your hips level, core gently engaged. Hold for 20 seconds. Switch legs. Do this twice per side every morning. Once you can do 20 seconds without touching the counter, try it with your eyes closed for 10 seconds. That trains your proprioceptive system even harder. If you have severe balance issues or a history of falls, keep one hand on the counter throughout. This is not about proving toughness. It's about building the system that keeps you upright when life throws you off balance. Now here's the bridge. Crane stance wakes up your balance sensors, but it doesn't load your hips or challenge your range of motion. That's where number 6 comes in, and it's going to feel strange at first because most people over 60 have never moved this way. Number 6 is the sumo squat hold, also called shiko in traditional practice. You stand with your feet wider than shoulder width, toes turned out, and you sink into a low squat position, only as low as your knees and hips allow, and hold it for 15 seconds. Then stand and repeat. This movement does something walking never will. It opens your hip capsule, strengthens your inner thighs and glutes, and trains the deep stabilizers that prevent knee collapse. In some analyses of older adults, hip and inner thigh weakness is present in more than half of those who suffer a fall-related injury. Walking doesn't train those planes of motion. Sumo squats do. George, 68, used to love hiking. But over the years his hips got stiff, His knees started hurting on downhill trails, and he stopped. When I met him, he couldn't squat below chair height without his knees caving inward. I had him start with sumo squat holds at a shallow depth, hands on his thighs for support. 15 seconds, rest, repeat 3 times. After 10 days, he noticed his hips felt looser when he got out of bed. After 3 weeks, he could sink lower without pain. He's back on trails now, and his knees are stable because his hips are finally doing their job. Here's how you do it. Stand with feet about 1.5 times shoulder width apart, toes pointed out at about 45 degrees. Lower yourself as if sitting back into a wide chair, keeping your chest up and knees tracking over your toes. Go only as low as feels stable. Hold for 15 seconds, breathing normally. Stand up slowly. Rest for 30 seconds. Repeat twice more. If your knees hurt, don't go as deep. If balance is an issue, hold onto a countertop. Progress by going a few inches deeper each week, not by forcing it on day 1. But here's the truth. Crane stance trains balance and sumo squats open your hips, but neither one teaches your body to rotate safely. And rotation, twisting to look over your shoulder, reaching across your body, is where most home injuries happen because your spine and hips are locked up from years of forward-only motion. Number 5 fixes that. It's called the standing spiral, or kaiten undo in Japanese practice. You stand tall, feet hip-width apart, and rotate your torso slowly to the right, letting your arms swing loosely, then rotate to the left. You do this for 30 seconds, breathing deeply, letting momentum carry your arms. This movement lubricates your thoracic spine, wakes up your obliques, and trains coordinated rotation without straining your lower back. Research from rehabilitation and aging centers has found that older adults with better rotational mobility have fewer back injuries and report higher functional independence. Susan, 75, a former office manager, spent decades sitting at a desk. Her upper back was so stiff she couldn't check her blind spot while driving without turning her whole body. She'd given up parallel parking because she couldn't twist to look behind her. I taught her the standing spiral. 30 seconds every morning, gentle, rhythmic, no forcing. After 1 week she noticed she could turn her head farther. After 3 weeks she parallel parked for the first time in 2 years. Her back didn't hurt, her neck felt looser, and she described it as waking up parts of her body she'd forgotten existed. Here's your protocol. Stand tall, feet hip-width, arms hanging naturally. Begin rotating your torso to the right, letting your arms swing loosely like ropes. Don't force the twist. Let momentum do the work. Rotate to the left. Keep your hips stable and let your spine do the twisting. Continue for 30 seconds, about 1 rotation per second. Breathe deeply. If you have a history of disc problems or severe spinal stenosis, keep the range smaller and ask your physical therapist to watch your form once. Now we're getting deeper. You've trained balance, hip strength, and rotation. But none of that matters if your feet are weak and your ankles are stiff, because your feet are the foundation. Most people over 60 shuffle instead of stepping with intention because their feet have been locked inside cushioned shoes for decades. The muscles have atrophied and the joints have stiffened. Number 4 is the toe and heel walk, called Tsumisaki Aruki and Kakato Aruki. You walk forward on your toes for 10 steps, then on your heels for 10 steps. It sounds silly. It's devastatingly effective. Walking on your toes strengthens your calves and the intrinsic muscles of your feet. Walking on your heels wakes up your shin muscles and improves dorsiflexion, which is the ability to lift your toes toward your shin. That's the movement that prevents tripping. In some studies, older adults with weak dorsiflexion are significantly more likely to catch their toes on thresholds, rugs, and uneven pavement. James, 66, a retired electrician, tripped over his dog's leash and fell hard on his hip. Luckily nothing broke, but he was scared. I watched him walk and noticed he barely lifted his feet. His toes skimmed the ground with every step. I had him start doing toe and heel walks in his hallway every morning. 10 steps on toes, 10 on heels, 3 rounds. After 2 weeks his gait looked different. His feet lifted higher. He stopped shuffling. He told me he felt more in control of his body. Here's the protocol. Find a clear hallway or open space. Walk forward on your toes for 10 steps, keeping your heels off the ground. Use a wall for light support if needed. Then walk forward on your heels for 10 steps, keeping your toes lifted. That's 1 round. Do 3 rounds. Start slow. If your calves cramp, rest and shake them out. Over time your feet will get stronger and your ankles more mobile. This is one of those movements that feels awkward but pays massive dividends in real-world stability. Here's the shift. Everything so far has been standing. But the next movement drops you to the ground, and for good reason. Your ability to get up and down from the floor without using your hands is one of the strongest predictors of longevity and independence in older adults. If you can't do it now, you need to train it before it's too late. Number 3 is the sit-to-stand floor transition, called tatami no okiagari in traditional settings. You sit on the floor cross-legged or in a comfortable position, then stand up using as little hand support as possible. Then you lower yourself back down the same way. Repeat 5 times. This movement trains full body coordination, hip mobility, core strength, and leg power. Research from longevity and functional fitness centers has found that people over 60 who can rise from the floor without hand support have dramatically lower mortality risk over the next decade compared to those who need multiple points of support. Patricia, 70, a retired nurse, loved her grandchildren but avoided playing with them on the floor because she couldn't get back up without help. It embarrassed her. I started her with the modified version. She sat on a low stool, then stood up without using her hands. Once she could do that 5 times in a row, we lowered the stool. Then we switched to a thick cushion on the floor. After 6 weeks, she could sit cross-legged on the floor and stand up with just one hand on the ground for balance. She cried the first time she did it unassisted. Now she plays on the floor with her grandkids every weekend. Here's how you progress. If getting down to the floor is hard, start by sitting in a chair and standing up without using your hands. Do that 5 times. Once that's easy, use a lower chair or stool. Then progress to sitting on a thick cushion on the floor and standing up with minimal hand support. Eventually aim to sit cross-legged or kneeling, then stand without hands. Lower yourself back down the same way. Do 5 reps. This is humbling for most people, but it's one of the most functional movements you can train. If you have severe knee or hip arthritis, stay with the chair or stool variation and focus on standing without hands. That alone is a game changer. Now here's where it gets interesting. Everything we've done so far is mechanical. Balance, strength, mobility. But number 2 targets something most people ignore until it's gone, and losing it accelerates every decline we've talked about. Number 2 is rhythmic breathing with arm circles, called kokyu no undo. You stand tall, feet hip-width, and raise your arms slowly overhead as you inhale for 4 counts. Then you lower your arms in a wide circle as you exhale for 6 counts. You do this for 1 minute. It sounds like a warm-up. It's actually a nervous system reset. Deep, rhythmic breathing activates your parasympathetic system, lowers cortisol, improves oxygenation, and has been linked in some research to better cardiovascular health and reduced inflammation in older adults. The arm circles add shoulder mobility and gentle thoracic extension, countering the forward slump that comes from years of sitting. Margaret, 74, a former librarian, came to me with high blood pressure and chronic neck tension. She'd been on medication for years, and her doctor wanted to increase the dose. I taught her this breathing practice. 1 minute every morning, 1 minute before bed. After 3 weeks, her home blood pressure readings were lower. After 2 months, her doctor reduced her medication. She said the neck tension melted away and she felt calmer throughout the day. She'd spent years looking for a complicated solution when the answer was 1 minute of intentional breath and movement. Here's the protocol. Stand tall, feet hip-width, arms at your sides. Inhale slowly through your nose for 4 counts as you raise your arms out to the sides and overhead, as if drawing a large circle in the air. At the top, pause briefly. Then exhale slowly through your mouth or nose for 6 counts as you lower your arms down in a wide arc back to your sides. The exhale should be longer than the inhale. Repeat for 1 minute, about 6 to 8 full cycles. Keep your shoulders relaxed. If raising your arms overhead is painful, only go as high as comfortable. The breath is more important than the range of motion. Now here's the moment. We've built balance, strength, mobility, breathing. But number one is the movement that ties everything together and has been quietly practiced in Japan for generations because it does something no other exercise can. It trains your vestibular system, your spatial awareness, and your ability to move with control in all planes. And it takes 30 seconds. Number one is the slow head turn with weight shift, called Yukuri no Metsuke. You stand tall, feet hip width, and slowly turn your head to the right as you shift a bit of your weight onto your right foot. Hold for 3 seconds. Return to center. Turn your head to the left as you shift weight onto your left foot. Hold for 3 seconds. Return to center. Repeat 5 times per side. This movement integrates your visual system, your balance system, and your body's sense of where it is in space. Research from neurology and aging centers has found that older adults who practice slow, controlled head movements with coordinated weight shifts show improved gait stability, reduced dizziness, and better spatial navigation. Here's why it matters more than anything else. When you trip or lose your balance, your brain has to process visual information, inner ear signals, and body position all at once in a fraction of a second to keep you upright. If those systems aren't talking to each other, you fall. Most people over 60 have let those connections decay because modern life doesn't require them. You walk on flat surfaces, look straight ahead, move predictably. This movement rewires those connections. Robert, 69, a retired pilot, started getting dizzy when he turned his head quickly. He'd stop walking to look at something because he felt unsteady. His doctor found no inner ear pathology, so he was told it was just age. I had him do this practice twice a day. 5 reps per side, slow and controlled. After 1 week the dizziness was less intense. After 3 weeks it was gone. He could turn his head while walking without breaking stride. His brain had relearned how to integrate movement and vision. Here's your protocol. Stand tall, feet hip width, near a counter or wall for safety if needed. Slowly turn your head to the right, letting your eyes follow as you gently shift your weight onto your right foot. Don't lean dramatically, just a subtle shift. Hold for 3 seconds. Return your head and weight to center. Turn your head to the left and shift weight onto your left foot. Hold 3 seconds. Return to center. That's 1 rep. Do 5 reps per side. Move slowly. If you feel dizzy, reduce the range of motion and keep one hand on a counter. Progress over weeks, not days. Here's the full picture. These 7 movements take less than 10 minutes total. Crane stance builds balance. Sumo squat opens your hips. Standing spiral trains rotation. Toe and heel walk strengthens your feet. Sit to stand floor transition builds functional strength. Rhythmic breathing resets your nervous system. Slow head turn with weight shift integrates your whole system. None of them pound your joints. All of them train the things walking ignores. The Japanese have understood for generations that longevity isn't about logging miles. It's about maintaining the movement vocabulary that keeps you independent. It's about training balance before you fall, mobility before you stiffen, and integration before your systems stop talking to each other. You don't need to choose between walking and these movements. But if you're over 60 and walking is all you do, you're leaving massive gaps in your armor. Start with 1 movement. Pick the one that feels most urgent. If you've had a near fall, start with crane stance. If your hips are tight, start with sumo squats. If you feel stiff and tense, start with rhythmic breathing. Do that 1 movement every day for a week. Then add another. By the end of the month you'll have the full sequence, and your body will feel different. Lighter. Steadier. More capable. You've spent decades building a life. These movements are how you protect the body that carries it. Which one will you try first and why?